Good morning, Dan and Amy. Well, Senator Jeff Sessions' Attorney General confirmation hearings went into day 2 yesterday, and of course, the featured political theater was New Jersey Senator Cory Booker auditioning for a 2020 presidential run. He had this to say about Senator Jeff Sessions and explaining his opposition and why senators should vote against confirmation.
If confirmed, Senator Sessions will be required to pursue justice for women, but his record indicates that he won't. He will be expected to defend the equal rights of gay and lesbian and transgender Americans, but his record indicates that he won't. He will be expected to defend voting rights, but his record indicates that he won't. He will be expected to defend the rights of immigrants and affirm their human dignity, but the record indicates that he won't.
You get the gist of it. It's a political speech Cory Booker is making. He wasn't referring to a specific case. He wasn't referring to a specific action. He's just talking about the record in general. Here's the translation here, and here's the Booker standard for confirmation. You either agree with the left-wing orthodoxy and use the law as a sword to advance it, or you don't get confirmed. That's essentially the case that Cory Booker was making. It's a pretty flimsy one,
and it's a calculated effort ahead of his 2020 launch, don't you think?
Yeah, I think there's a failure to launch yesterday. Hi-yo.
Matthew McConaughey movie.
Alberto Gonzales, former United States Attorney General during the W administration, as well as now the current dean of the Belmont University School of Law, the Fightin' Bruins. He joins us again.
How do you know that?
Alberto Gonzales, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
I'm delighted to be back. Thanks.
And so you're used to having to endure political theater with patience and answer stupid questions from senators. So your assessment of this unprecedented testimony from a sitting senator against Jeff Sessions?
Well, I think you're right. It is unprecedented. Typically, there's a courtesy shown by senators to other senators. I think that what Senator Booker fails to appreciate, or maybe does appreciate, and this really was a political move, is that, you can support a policy as a senator. You can be an advocate for a policy as a senator, but once you take a different job, such as the Attorney General of the United States, and you take an oath of office to enforce those policies perhaps you once opposed. I mean, that's what you do. You're in a different arena. You have different responsibilities, and so while I think it's informative to look at past behavior and past positions. Again, Sessions is now looking at a different position with different obligations, and as long as he's committed to enforce the law, irrespective of his personal beliefs, then that's what is really important here. And I think that he's done well in his confirmation hearing, and I fully expect him to be confirmed by the Senate.
So do you know what Jeff Sessions' record on social inequality and voting rights are? Or is this all made up or fake news to just try and derail his nomination?
Well, of course, that's the job of the Judiciary Committee. I haven't done the kind of investigation that has been conducted by the Judiciary Committee, but that's their job, and their job to ask questions. I don't know whether or not any of the Democrats on the Judiciary Committee will vote for him. I suspect at least some will. But when I was being confirmed, all the Democrats voted against me in the Judiciary Committee, but several of them called me ahead of the vote to say, listen, we've worked together in the past in your role as White House counsel. We know you. I'm not going to vote for you. I can't vote for you because I think you're too close to President Bush. Nonetheless, I know you're going to be confirmed. I look forward to working with you because we have some very important issues that are confronting America, and we need to work together. So I suspect even those who vote against him will contact Senator Sessions and convey the same message. They know he's going to be confirmed, and they know they need to work with him because we do have some very serious issues facing America.
That's a great insight into the intellectual courage of members of the U.S. Senate. I know you're going to be confirmed, and everything will be fine. And I'm going to vote against you.
It's just crazy.
It's kind of like what we're seeing with Jeff Sessions and these exchanges, with Patrick Leahy or Dianne Feinstein, where they're not asking serious questions. They're just making political speeches and then seeing if Jeff Sessions will say something silly, which of course he's not going to do. But to your point about enforcing laws that you don't personally agree with, the hysteria of the left when it comes to the nomination of conservatives is, if we nominate Jeff Sessions, or we confirm Jeff Sessions, just like if we confirm Alberto Gonzales, he disagrees with us on, for example, abortion. He thinks Roe v. Wade, Jeff Sessions, should be overturned and sent to the states. That's been his position. So now as Attorney General, that means when he becomes the head of the Department of Justice, he is single-handedly going to overturn Roe v. Wade and send it back. I mean, it's just the intellectual dishonesty of the position because you disagree with somebody's policy viewpoint on a political matter. That it seems to me punctuates these confirmation hearings.
Well, of course, and I think that's you highlighted the fact that there is a lot of politics involved in this. So this is another way to sort of revisit the election and the policies that were rejected by the American people. But this is not unique to this transition. We've seen it in previous transitions, and so this is the way that things operate in Washington, unfortunately. And but the good news is, again, I think it's very important that Republicans do control the Senate. As a result of that, I think we're going to see all, if not most, if not all of the nominees of Donald Trump be confirmed. And, I know there's some people that are anxious about this administration, but I really do believe it's important that this president get his team in place. Mm-hmm. He was elected by the people based on an agenda, and he needs to be given an opportunity to govern. He's not had no previous experience in government, and he's got a lot to learn. There's no question about that. But we have to remain hopeful that he's going to become the leader, the kind of president that this country so desperately needs.
I got to ask a question about Jim Comey, because if I'm recalling correctly, there was some overlap between your tenure as Attorney General and Jim Comey's tenure as a Deputy Attorney General during the Bush administration. And
he was my deputy for about a year, a little over a year, yes.
Okay. And so what is if you're interested to comment, your assessment of his performance as FBI director? I mean, he is still the subject of much discussion, even as we continue talking about the Russian hacking matter.
I would say, Jim's very talented, and obviously I honor the sacrifice of he and his family in terms of coming back into public service. There were times that Jim and I disagreed, and what I worry a little bit sometimes about Jim Comey is that he's very committed to a position once he arrives at a decision. Now, that can be very, very helpful and an admirable trait, but if you're wrong and you refuse to move or budge, then it can be somewhat dangerous. And I'm surprised and disappointed in some of the decisions related to of course, the Clinton emails. And I think it was all unfortunate. And because at the end of the day, it's really about the Department of Justice and the perception of the people of the Department of Justice. And I think that whole episode was very unfortunate for the Department of Justice. And so I regret some of the things that happened as a result of the decisions that he made.
Do you think that Hillary Clinton should have been prosecuted?
Again, I don't know. I haven't studied the record as closely as I would have if I was the Attorney General, which tees up, I think, a very important point that I've talked about before, and that is it was not Jim Comey's role to make that decision. His role was to gather up the information, to do the investigation, and then present it to the prosecutor, either the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, someone who's a prosecutor, and let them make the decision. There always has to be a check on the investigator. You just can't simply rely upon the investigator to make the decision as to whether or not to move forward with the prosecution. That is not his job. So that was, to me, somewhat surprising and disappointing as well that Attorney General Lynch sort of recused herself unofficially. And I guess she did that because of a whole episode on the tarmac in Phoenix when she met privately with President Clinton, Bill Clinton. But someone, if she was going to recuse herself, the Deputy Attorney General should have stepped into the role of providing the check upon the investigator. So again, as I said earlier, the whole episode to me was somewhat surprising and disappointing.
What about Jeff Sessions' testimony 2 days ago that he will recuse himself from anything related to Hillary Clinton and the email because of the political statements he made during the campaign in support of Trump.
I think that was absolutely the right thing to do and very, very smart thing to do. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be an investigation, and that doesn't mean that there won't be a prosecutor involved, ultimately making the decision whether to move forward with the prosecution. There is a formal process to the Department of Justice, and so the Attorney General will formally recuse himself from anything related to these matters, in which case then any decision to be made about a prosecution falls to the Deputy Attorney General, and if for some reason the dad can't be involved, then it goes to the Associate Attorney General. So there's always someone in place, again, to provide a check on the investigators.
He is former United States Attorney General, now the Dean of Belmont University School of Law in scenic Nashville, Tennessee, where many Chicagoans are moving.
There.
Alberto Gonzales, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot